Big changes have arrived on KDP that will affect your low content publishing business, but will these changes hurt your business or help it? Find out what KDP's latest update means for your publishing business in the now, as well as how to successfully manage those changes for your long-term low content publishing success in the future. I'm Rachel Harrison-Sun, and I help online entrepreneurs make more money so they can live more life. If that's you, go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell so that you can be notified every time I put out one of these videos, which is each and every Monday. So what's this big change that's going to affect how you publish low content books on KDP? Well, KDP has finally recognized low content books as its own thing on Amazon, and you're now going to have to identify them as such the next time that you publish one. And the way you do this when uploading your next low content book is by checking a little box right after you've chosen your BISAC categories. That is simple enough, but there are a few additional things that we should probably talk about. Firstly, what exactly does KDP consider to be a low content book? Now, according to KDP's help section, a low content book is one that has minimal or no content on the interior pages. Now, that includes notebooks, planners, journals, and other similar works. Now, what it doesn't include are activity books, puzzle books, or coloring books. So before ticking that little low content books box when publishing, you're going to need to decide whether or not your book is actually a low content book according to KDP's definition. If you tick the box and your book is not a low content book, your book is going to get rejected, and vice versa. If your book is a low content book and you didn't tick it, then your book's also going to get rejected. Now, don't worry about making a mistake. This isn't likely going to be grounds for termination or anything like that. At worst, it's probably just going to delay your publication date, though it's probably not a mistake that you want to keep making over and over and over again. So if you determine that your book is a low content book as defined by KDP, what happens once you check that little box? Well, there are going to be several differences from publishing fiction, nonfiction, and more of these, medium content books like activity, puzzle, or coloring books. The first one is that you're no longer going to be eligible for a free KDP ISBN. So that means you're going to have the option of either publishing without an ISBN or publishing your own ISBN from somewhere like Bowker if you're in the United States. Now, my recommendation is to go ahead and publish your book without an ISBN, as it's just really not necessary to have one for those types of books. Now, if you go out into a bookstore and pick up a notebook or a lined journal, you're likely not going to find an ISBN on them, and generally you don't need one either. Now, the other reason I say to go without is because of the cost of purchasing your ISBN. ISBNs typically cost over $100 each if you're buying from Bowker, and even if you buy them in bulk, you're still going to be spending like about $300 for a 10-pack. So this does kind of make it cost prohibitive if you are publishing in bulk. Now, the next thing you're going to notice when publishing low content books is that your book won't have the look inside feature available. Now, at first, this does sound like kind of a big deal, but two things to remember here. First, many, if not most people, shop on their phones, and the look inside feature isn't available there anyway. Secondly, you are still going to have the ability to include A+ content for your books, so customers are still going to get a chance to see inside your book. Now, if anything, I actually think this will be a benefit to anyone serious about publishing low content books on KDP, because spammers uploading, hundreds, if not thousands of books on KDP probably just aren't going to be willing to put in the effort of creating high quality A+ content for their, mountain of crappy books. So as in any other situation, those that are willing to, kind of go that extra mile are going to be the ones who get the best results. Now, the third thing to take note of is that low content books will no longer be eligible for expanded distribution. Now, this actually isn't new. It's a change that happened last year. So that really shouldn't come as a shock to anyone. And again, this really isn't a big deal. I always looked at expanded distribution sales as kind of a nice bonus that happened every once in a while, but it never really did constitute a significant portion of my overall royalty earnings. So it really wasn't something that made an impact when it went away. Now, if any of these things bother you and you'd like to focus more on creating higher value books that kind of fall outside of KDP's low content book definition, then check out this video here, 5 hidden gem children's niches that make $1,000 plus a month. So on balance, will this change help or hurt your KDP business? Now, I think this change is good for several reasons. First, This is the first time that KDP has both acknowledged and legitimized publishing low content books on his platform. Since people started publishing low content books on KDP, there's kind of been this underlying fear that KDP was one day just going to, put a stop to it altogether. Something about it kind of felt illegitimate, probably because low content books didn't really fit into any of the categories on Amazon, like BISAC, browse categories. They didn't really fall into fiction or nonfiction either. So they just kind of felt out of place. And then B, because publishing these books turned out to be so insanely lucrative that it kind of just felt a little bit too good to be true. And I think people just expected that it couldn't last. But, as we all know, if self-publishers are making insane money publishing low content books, so is Amazon. So they probably weren't likely to, stuff a spigot into that cash cow. And then, finally recognizing low content books and adding publishing options for them inside of KDP, that's a sign that low content books are here to stay. And hopefully people can stop worrying about Amazon, suddenly pulling the rug out from under them. Now, secondly, as I already touched on, I think that the amount of extra effort required in creating the A+ content that's going to mitigate the loss of the look inside feature might potentially dissuade some of the spammers out there. This could be wishful thinking, as spammers can be quite persistent, but ultimately time's going to tell. Now, in the meantime, I think we can probably assume that more of a dedicated ecosystem for low content books on Amazon may appear in the near future, and that could potentially include things like dedicated low content book browse categories, which might finally put an end to self-publishers placing their books into irrelevant categories in order to get bestseller badges. But that's conjecture. We're just going to have to wait and see. Now, if this low content world is entirely new to you and you are itching to learn more and get started, please download my free guide, 3 Steps to Publishing Your First Low Content Book, in less than a day, down in the description below. You can also join my free Facebook group, Low Content Profits. I've linked to that below as well. There you're going to find other like-minded self-publishers who are sharing tips, asking questions, and getting the support that they need. You can check out these videos next for more on low content publishing. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe, share it with anyone you think might find it useful. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.